Welcome back to Morphy's Games of Chess. We got game 48 coming up, folks. The Harvard's-Morphy match continues. It's the 8th match game held in September or October of 1858. Not quite sure the exact date. Okay, so here it is. Morphy has the white pieces. He starts off like always with e4. Harvard's answers e5, knight f3, d6 by Harvard's, his Philidor's defense. Morphy standard procedure, d4, striking in the center. Now in all the games so far between these two, you had Harvard's taking on d4, Morphy recapturing with the queen. Now this game's a little different. Harvard's tries to pin the knight. He doesn't take on d4. He tries pinning the knight on f3. Okay. Now, it says here, question mark from the old masters, the notation, folks, right here in the book. I told you, it's game 48. Wake up. Right? So here we go. Universally condemned by the analysts. It is the defense with which Lasker lost to Van Vliet at Amsterdam, 1889. Blackburn, however, has played it on several occasions, not without success. So, you know, some people play it, some people lose with it. Some win, some lose. Who knows, folks? Is it playable? I don't know. Probably. You could probably play it. I mean, how could you be busted or lost already? This so early? I don't know. Let's look at it, though. You got Morphy taking the pawn, right? And now here, if black takes back, well, now you just trade those queens off, and there's no more pin on the f3 knight, and white would win the e5 pawn. And he's threatening a fork on f7, and he's threatening to take the bishop. All right. You solve both problems, you bring them back, and then, I don't know. What is the... Let's make sure that's what the engine would like to do, right? Am I missing something here? All right. So he brings him back. He brings out the other guy, the other knight. All right. There you go, right? White won a pawn, folks. A center pawn, very valuable pawn. Lasker says the center pawns are the most valuable because the center's where it's at, where all the action is, folks. All right. So after Morphy takes, black can't even recapture, right? Now, okay, Shredder likes to put the knight here. He's thinking about putting the knight there. Now here we got Harvard's taking the f3 knight. All right. Now, simple enough, because if he takes back this way, all right, he could recapture. If he takes back with the queen, he could recapture, and you see, no, nothing. His e5 pawn is safe. Okay, now the thing is, here's what they recommend, though. This is Harvard's move, but it says, on account of the continuation in the next note, this is not usually played. This right here, knight, bishop takes knight. But knight to d7 in hope of a quick development to compensate for the pawn loss. Okay? This is then pawn takes pawn, so black does lose a pawn. It's a gambit now, folks. Notice, like, he's threatening, if given the chance, he'd take back his pawn, you see? And now there's no threat. You know, you can't trade queens, and this is protected, right? So white would not play a3 here, trust me. He'd take the pawn, but now this only speeds up black's development because he gets to develop the king bishop now. So he's given up a pawn, and look, he's got 3 minor pieces developed to white's 1, you see? So now after bishop to e2, breaking the pin on the knight, you know, that's they say that's this is it. This is the best. You know, this is the best play for both sides at that point. If you're going to play the Philidors with the bishop to g4 on move 3, this is the way to go for black. This is the best thing to do, and they're concluding with this move for white being best, right? What's the modern theory on this? God only knows, right? I don't know. I'll leave that to you guys to go look and study. But this looks pretty nice for black. I kind of like the way you're getting your pieces out quickly, you know. You're making, instead of the bishop over here, very aggressive, aiming for the king. Here's the bishop on e2. You know, as black, I think you're doing all right. If you're a real tactician, you like this. You get your piece action, you understand? open files, open diagonals, good piece action for your pieces. I could see where this makes sense, right? So anyway, it said another part of the footnote on bishop to g4, on bishop takes knight, rather, is it says that queen to e7 was Blackburn's move against Pillsbury in the 1900 cable match. Imagine that, folks. They're playing, I don't know, by cable. They're like, not telephone. I guess they're giving the Morse code and they're writing down the moves. I mean, it's amazing. I got to go find that match and look it up. I mean, you're talking the Blackburn was in England, right? And Pillsbury was the American. I mean, he was the American champ. That must have been a good match. I'd like the two tacticians, you know, very aggressive. They carried the torch after Morphy. They absorbed what Morphy was doing and took it further, you know. Interesting stuff. I'd love to see that match. But anyway, this looks interesting too. Now, the idea, if White just goes ahead and takes, well, now Black comes down, takes with check. All right, you block it, and then he gets to take with the bishop. And folks, he's getting his pieces out. You know, White again, bishop e2, not the most aggressive post, right? And matter of fact, I mean, you could maybe bust up the king position, but he takes the pawn over here, right? He's got the bishop developed. He didn't gambit the pawn, folks. He got it back, and he's looking pretty good here. Now, like you could do with the bishop pin, for instance, something dumb like this, right? You could take over here, and the bishop is pinned, so he'd have to take back with the pawn, and that busts up the king side. See that? But that's a move away. Okay, so look, he throw the knight here, maybe. All right, just castle, get it over with, castle. Okay, if he takes now, the bishop's not pinned anymore, right? So he can take back, and there you go. And that look at this, he threatens mate. White would like to come down and win the exchange, but Black's threatening mate. Okay, is he gonna win the exchange anyway? Well, I guess so, right? All right, so anyway, there's a game. Who knows? We go back on castles. It wouldn't be smart for Black to take the knight after what we just saw. So there you go. Develop the piece, folks. Get him out. Maybe castle long, right? Look at this. What if you? I'm just curious. What if you castle long here? If he takes your bishop, you check, right, and you win. Well, you're kind of giving up quite a bit, right? Yeah, because if you take with the rook, this guy hangs. So you take back with that. Okay. So you're giving up two bishops and a rook. Not really, yeah, look at the evaluations saying White's up. But I'm sure most of you guys out there would rather take White. You got the two bishops also. Well, Black doesn't have any bishops. But I mean, you got your two. You gave up. Black gave up the queen for his two bishops, and he threw in a rook for, you know, for extra, you know, like a tip. I mean, forget about this. You're giving up three minor pieces equal the queen, and you're throwing in two bishops and a rook. I mean, come on. I was just curious on where that would look, how that would look, but. All right, he gets the knight out. He hits the guy that this guy. All right, pull him back. There you go, right? You hit the queen out of there. All right, he pulls back, or he goes that way. Can he go here? You get the pawn fork, but you sack it. You see that, folks? And now you see this. Look at this dangerous stuff now. Lucky for that knight on f3, else it would be mate. All right. So White would have a, you know, scary. He's walking a tightrope now. It could be dangerous. Black sacrifices a bishop for two pawns and an attack, so could be worth it. These are the type of things, you know. You back your bishop up, and then when he hits your queen with the knight, it's like you're tempting him, you know. Go ahead, take that pawn fork, right? Got to be careful. All right, Shredder likes this move. All right, so it's a game. It's a whole different game, you see? But that's basically it. If you take here, black gets the queen takes on e4 with check. The whole idea. After the block of the check, let's say he brings the queen out to block, right? Now you might be able to take here because the queen can't recapture, right? Oh, but he takes down on, okay, he takes down there. You can't do it. I mean, he gets, you know, he gets out of this. You take. But he's got that, all right, you get it back. The next move coming for white would be bishop takes, right? See? Oh, you check. You check. All right, we're looking at some crazy stuff here. You're going to support that pawn on c7 becomes a real pain. All right, now black's threatening to take it, right? He's threatening to take, knight takes pawn, and they trade on c7. So he gets rid of it. So you take him off. See that? And now you, again, folks, remember in the last few games, isolated A pawns, isolated H pawns. Not good. Okay, and you got that pawn on c7. White's definitely up here. Now, of course, look, I threw in the dumb moves, you know, I mean, for black. You don't want to take then, you can't. It's not worth it. White takes on c7, he's threatening c8, queen, right? Queen in that pawn. All right, if the knight goes here, you take, he trades, he takes with the king. Is that what he wants to do? I guess he'll win that pawn back. He decides to castle. Look at this check. Developing with a tempo. Because those bishops are deadly. Look at those bishops, folks. Look at those bishops. So, I mean, even though he's got the busted kingside pawns, isolated F pawns, isolated H pawn, look at those bishops. See, that's the compensation. It's give and take, you know. If you're going to take a busted pawn structure, you got to get something for it. Look at these bishops. It's the bishop pair, and look at how powerful they are. You know? All right, so anyway, black would not take over here. He would take first, and then he'd recapture. There's the same maneuver. Bishop developing, taking that d6 pawn, right? And now, you know, it's a pretty even game. Okay? They both, at this stage, they both have 3 pieces developed, right? The center pawns, the E and D pawns are off the board. So, you know, for black, this is good for black. He pretty much evened the game, equalized, right? Anyone could win at this point. So that's this move, but now that's if white's dumb enough to take on d6. Look at Shredder. I'm sure you saw what it was looking at there. Queen to d. You're threatening to take on b7. So the knight blocks that. You pin that guy. I guess you break the pin. If you break the pin, you're moving so that if he takes here, you could take with the bishop now, I guess. He takes. Queen over. All right. So, like, if at this point, if he takes here and he retakes, okay, he's still got the queen on it. All right. And anyway, the knight comes out. The bishop pins. So bishop back. Bishop back makes more sense, I guess, right? Why would you put your queen into the pin, right? Look at this. You get the knight coming up. So I think bishop back would be better, right? Let's see where this goes. All right, he takes. Because folks, he's threatening to take, right? He's threatening that. He's threatening to take on e5 now. See that? So he takes here. Queen takes, right? You're gonna isolate your pawn. All right, you take. Looks good to me, right? I think black's hanging in there. Slight edge for white, but hey, it's a game, right? If he takes the queens off, you take back with your bishop. All right, black's doing all right. So, like I said, the cable match between Blackburn and Pillsbury, that should be interesting. Two titans back in the day fighting it out. All right. So let's continue. We'll go back. So the two moves, the two alternatives that you might want to try if you're going to play the Philidor, right? You get the speedy development, get your pieces out, okay? And the other one could be Blackburn's queen to e7. Pin likes that queen over first, but you let it go. I just want to see here. Yeah, all right. So anyway, he takes here. Even if this, folks, look, let's see if I got this right. What if you take with the queen? He takes you, right? I guess he busts. The idea is to bust up the pawn structure, but you get the open B file. And if he takes here, look at this. Now you take with the pawn. Look at this. Shredder likes to take with the pawn. I mean, you know, this might be better structurally, right? You get the two pawns side by side. They cover the squares B5, C5, D5, E5, D5. They cover those squares, and they can help one another protect one another. And you got the open B file still for the rook. But now if you take with the bishop, you got the isolated C pawns, but you have the bishop here, and you're developing a piece. The queens are off the board, so the game slows down a little bit, you know. It's harder to have an attack, which every move, when the queens are on the board, when it comes to an attack, every tempo could mean the game, you know. Once the queens are off, does that tempo mean as much? Maybe the pawn structure is a little more valuable, you know, than the tempo is. Shredder's going for it with this, taking back with the pawn. Interesting stuff. I don't know. It's a game. It's a game, folks. So there's a lot of play here, you know. The Philidors isn't busted as far as I'm concerned. These lines, these gambit-type lines, look pretty good. They look pretty good for us if we want it. We're going to be tacticians, you know. Give it a whirl. I mean, maybe against those high-rated, the Masters, the Grandmasters, you know, they're gonna you're busted to begin with, right, folks? We gotta admit it. Why play them? Why do you give it a whirl? Give the gambit a whirl. Why not? Be aggressive. Okay. So anyway, all right. So on pawn takes. Horvitz goes in with the bishop. He takes on f3, and Morphy takes with the queen. Right now, here's another footnote. Morphy did not like an early exchange of queens. Game 46 is a rare example. Okay, that was a couple of games ago. We saw it happen. You could go back to refer to that game. They traded queens. Morphy actually traded queens. And you could go back to that game. Interesting game. But you can understand here, Morphy usually being a tactician, he likes to go for the attack. He wants the queens on the board, right? So he takes with the queen, and he allows Horvitz to recapture, get his pawn back, right? So now it's not a gambit. And what ends up happening, they give the footnote here. They say, you know, they understand Morphy did not like to exchange queens, or else he could have played pawn takes, and then when black wins back his pawn, trade the queens, king takes, only move, right? And now you got, this is what they give, the old masters give. All right, the knight, Shredder likes the knight right now, but okay, let's go into what they liked. They say f4, right? Pawn, they give pawn to f6, defending e5. Rook over, taking the open file, and it makes it harder. You got to always try to cripple your opponent, slow him down. Rook to g1 puts pressure on g7, so if this guy develops, he loses a pawn. And that's not looking good. That rook coming down on the 7th rank, you know, not good. You got the king stuck in the center. He lost his castling privileges, the black king, right? He recaptured on the queen trade. So now he's stuck in the middle, and you can't, with the rook on the 7th, he can't come up to link up them rooks. So that could be a real pain, could give a crippling effect to the black development here. So you don't want something like that happen. So rook to g1 is a good move, preventing the bishop from developing. All right, so he could develop the knight like Shredder wants to do. But what do the old masters say here? They give, all right, they want to take away that rook coming down on g7. So they play g6. Okay, and then they give pawn takes, pawn takes. Now black's got an isolated pawn on e5. Now it's not on an open file like we saw in the other game. But hey, you know, then they just conclude with the knight to c3, and you know, it's a game, it's a fight still. Actually, let's see, they give everything's even Steven, but you know, they give a little edge to white. But you know, like I said, folks, when you look at these evaluations, when it's +1, you know, anything under 1, it's anybody's game, you know. If you got this many pieces on the board, lots of mistakes are waiting to be made, you know. So anything could happen. So it's anybody's game. But you could see now, quite frankly, you see this, to me, in my mind, like, you know, it's like, it's vague. I don't know. Like I said, anything could happen. Look at this, c6 to take away the squares for the knight, right? Good idea. Like the rook to g1, keeping that the dark square bishop for black from developing. Look at black, keeping the white knight from grabbing the outposts. If you know, it's not an outpost because of that c pawn, and now he can't hop to b5 either. You know, so this is how you got to, you know, these. Considering what moves to make, always try to look at crippling your opponent, making his pieces. You want to develop your pieces as best you can, right? Give them scope, give them the open files, the bishops on the long diagonals, the knights to the outposts or center to the board, right? Now, your opponent wants to do the same, so you got to look for the moves to cripple him, to take away the good development. You got to make your minor pieces developed better, have more control of the board than your opponents. You want your rooks to the open files. You want to prevent your opponent from bringing his rook to the open file. Capiche? All right. Have I said enough already? All right. So anyway, matter of fact, look at this. Now, maybe this is why you could give white that little edge. Look at the diagonal here for this bishop. The only light square bishop on the board, folks. That's a nice diagonal, taking up some squares around the black king, you know. So if he goes here, you even got this. You got this guy over here, maybe over there, right? Bishop's gaining nice diagonals. Maybe you can keeping the knight from developing, right? keeping the knight from coming out. If he was to challenge, I guess you'd swap it off then. Alright, so anyway, it's a game, right? Oh, look at this. You're going after the weakness already. And folks, look at this. Wait, he's going to lose it, I think, right? Because the only piece on the board now that the knight's on e7, so this would be a mistake. If this is leading to what it's leading to, that would be a mistake. Because now the knight blocks, the rook can't defend, right? The only piece to defend, but you chop him off, and now you win the pawn. See how it all starts to add up. I told you the pawn is an isolated pawn, so it could be a weakness. This would be a mistake then. Bishop to e7, right? See how it all connects? This game is something else. All right. All right. So anyway, just some. We're going deeper into it than we need to, right? I'll tell you what though. Let's look at the. Obviously, we're here for Morphy's games, right? Let's go back and look at Morphy's game. He takes back with the queen. Okay. So Harvitz gets his pawn back, like I said. And now look at this. Develop, right? Look at the bishop coming to c4. Do you see the threat, folks? Mate on f7. I can't even say it. I'm stuttering. I can't even get it out. All right, so you're developing with purpose. Look at this diagonal. Look at the threat, folks. The threat, right? All right, so what does Harvitz do? Well, there's a queen defending is Shredder's idea. But Harvitz brings the knight out. He blocks with the knight, and they give it a question mark. Now, quite frankly, I'm looking at it going, that doesn't look too bad, right? All right, so let's see what happens. Look at this. You get the knight, the queen sliding over to the queen side. Queen to b3. Now you're threatening to take on f7. And really, how does black defend this? Right? I mean, the problem also, it's a double attack because you're attacking f7 and you're also attacking the b7 pawn. For instance, if the queen comes up, I don't know, what would be better, here or there, right? He takes, okay? And now the rook's in trouble. He would actually sacrifice that guy. Let's see the logic here. You hit him. You're going to take the rook, right? Castles now. If you take the rook, oh wait, do you lose? Let's see here. You take the rook. The knight blocks your retreat. You only have b7. And look at this. Rook over. Only one square. Okay, so he's getting a lot of play. Does the queen get trapped? Still looks like it's evaluating it better for white. I mean, he grabbed that rook, obviously, right? He got +5, folks, and it makes sense. He grabbed that rook. But what about this? He's got a4, and I guess he escapes. He squeezes out of it. Sometimes you got to watch too when you're grabbing things and you're ending up like your queen's in the corner, and then all of a sudden all the other pieces are developed for the enemy, and even though he's down a rook, for instance, he might have a massive attack on you. All right, you break the pin of the c3 pawn. He sacks it. He's attacking the rook on a1. This could be sharp, but black's got piece action, but it's matter of fact, wait. Yeah, why not the rook takes? Rook takes. You take over here. He's threatening mate. White's threatening mate. You can't, no time to take this guy, because once he goes to e7, remember, mate's threatened. He can't take the rook over here. Mate is being threatened. So it's one of these crazy positions, but it looks like that white could get away with going in, you know, grabbing the rook. Black doesn't get enough. He doesn't get enough of an attack. But even on this, it likes bishop to c5 now. Just so similar to what we looked at. He wins the rook there. So, I mean, you know, castles, white castles. Got nowhere to go but b7. There you go. Now, if he comes here, okay, you go here and he forks. You see that? And the other line, the bishop was on b4. Look at this. Now he's got the fork. And I guess it would be. Would it be some kind of? It would be some. He could go for like a draw by repeating the position. So that's why Shredder, even all the way back here. This. He's saying to sack. He's saying to sack the bishop. So it clears the way for the queen. Matter of fact, you're going to trade him off, right? Notice that white has nothing developed other than the queen. All right, so now with the queens off, the game slows down. He's going to be able to consolidate here. He's able to get his pieces out, and he's good to go. He's up material. All right, so you got the queen sliding. So this knight f6 is not the right move, folks. It lets the queen come to b3. Now, Horvitz develops the bishop to d6. Okay? It actually gives for the inferior queen to e7, c game. Let's look at this one now. This is going to be 79. LXXIX. 79. Game 79. We got to remember that one. That looks interesting. I wonder what happens there. Shredder's saying a take. Queen takes, and you're taking down here on b7. But I wonder what Morphy does. We're going to have to see that game. Queen comes down, and he could afford to take. Oh, he takes here. He protects his rook. But yeah, all is well. All is well. Was that played right? He goes back. You don't want to give the check because he comes he comes here. And if he takes the rook, he could win the bishop. But okay, he's going to win the like this. You could win it that way, but Shredder's move is much better. If you notice, he brings the knight out, threatening an attack on the queen with his rook, right? And the queen's forced to trade. It can't get out of there. And the knight's actually attacking the b4 bishop. So he's forced to take, and now he saves his bishop. But okay, here we go. Now he wins this pawn anyway. So Black's got the two knights for he's got a queen for the two rooks, right? He's down a couple of pawns. It looks like he's got the action though, the piece action, right? He's better developed right now. And white can't castle. Get a knight up there. It could be dangerous. Again, remember when you post a knight, all right, they're piling up on your e-pawn there, so you chop the bishop off. This is getting awkward. This is, oh, okay, he goes there. Check. We're doing it quick. We're doing it quick, but the awkwardness of the rooks, they can't link up, right? It's the queen's picking off these pawns already. Look at this. All right, he doesn't take on a2. He's got to get his other knight in the game. All right. So I mean, this is again, folks. I'm getting sucked in. Black turned the tables here, right? Beautiful stuff. Now, let me remember where this all came from. Oh, okay. This was inferior queen to e7. So something wasn't played right. How did they do it? The check, right? Is that the right move there, or just take? You just take it. And you're up a B pawn, right? You're up 2 pawns. You got the F and the B pawn. Black got holes, right? So maybe simplifying like this. Going, let's see, after the knight. And now you start developing. Protect your E4 pawn. All right, who knows, right? There it is. Okay. So anyway, that's a game. But anyway, you got the knight. Horvitz plays. You get the knight coming out. Queen to B3. Horvitz plays the bishop to D6. All right. Bishop takes pawn. Now, with the bishop moving to D6, it frees up the F8 square. Because if you didn't notice, folks, if you just make any old silly move, mate was being threatened. Whether the king goes here, checkmate, or if the king goes here, checkmate. Either way, right? Okay. So the bishop comes out, frees up F8. So now the king slides to F8. He lost his castling privileges, though. And here comes bishop, not queen takes, right? He plays bishop, pinning the knight on F6 first. All right. Now the engine likes this, but Horvitz played knight to B7. If you do something like this, folks, trying to, oh, he's pinning my knight, let me hit him right away. Let me put the question to that guy, right? Well, you pull back, and you're threatening mate on F7. Queen F7 would be mate. So he'd have to defend, right? You take over here. All right, he wants to throw in a check. He takes this guy. We castle. It's this guy. Now, if he moves his bishop, folks. If he moves his bishop, here we go. Here we go again. We're coming in, right? We win the rook. Now, the queen is actually trapped on 88. Is it going to mean anything? Sack. And you get to take the pawn with check. I say you trade them off. Trade them off. Why not? Right? All right. Maybe you got the attack with that open G file. Yeah, he knows the check on G3's coming, so he would slip in there. And you got these past A pawn on the queen side. You got all the cards, right, folks? You're up a piece. All right. You tear them up. So H6, you can't do it, folks. You can't play H6. Okay. Horvitz brings the other knight out. Brings it to D7. Bishop back, threatening mate. Threatening mate on F7. Pawn to G6 to block that. And here comes the dark square bishop with a check. Right? He could go here or there, right? Where's he go? Where's he go? All right. Horvitz chose here. Right? Any different over here? Well, let's see. Threatens to win the exchange. He goes there. If he takes the other knight, now it looks like you might win the rook, destroy the defender, right? But you see that the other knight, it's not on C6, it's not on C6, it's on D7. Recaptures, so you don't get to take this guy. You don't win the rook. All right, you have to retreat. And what did you win? A pawn? You won the F pawn. You won black's F pawn. Okay, it's a game. Okay, but anyway, Horvitz chooses to go here. And the bishop, attacked by the G pawn, defends his E4 pawn. There you go. Bishop to F3. Now the knight comes up over here. The knight comes up, attacking the queen. And actually, they're attacking E4. Queen to C4 covers both problems. And look at this, black gambiting a pawn, throwing the pawn out there, right? If he takes, now E4 is not defended, right? The two black knights are attacking E4, but look at this. He takes the open file, he moves, and he wins this pawn. He goes for the B pawn. How about that? And because once the queen moves back, now that the E4 pawn is defended enough. All right, so he wins. Now he's got his rook, you know, his rook is active. Look at what Morphy does, though. He doesn't take the pawn. He decides to go right back to E2. And you see that the rook on A8 still isn't in the game. No open file over there, right? So, okay, Horvitz brings the knight to E6. All right, folks, so now we have Morphy bringing the bishop back to E3. Okay, and now the B5 pawn is hanging. Okay, so Horvitz protects with A6. Okay, and now the knight comes out. Morphy developing the last minor piece to D2. And you got Horvitz moving the king to F7. Morphy castles long. And now we got the queen coming to E7. So the black king moved over. And Horvitz then follows up, developing the queen to E7. Now the rooks are linked up. Okay, and here we go. Pawn to G3. Good move by Morphy. You'll see why in a minute. And Horvitz with his plan. He brings the rook over to the queen side. His king rook over to B8. And you got the two rooks now backing up the A and B pawns. Horvitz is going to try to launch a kingside attack. Launch those bombs down into the enemy king, Morphy's king on the queen side. And Morphy's going to try the same thing. Here we got a footnote. After Horvitz's rook to B8, we got the queen side attack at which black aims is harmless in comparison with white's king side attack. And this rook would have stood better in the center. Okay? I don't know, maybe with Shredder. Let's see what Shredder likes. He likes pushing the pawn. All right, the pawn storm, right? Pushing the C pawn up. Horvitz is going to bring the rook over and push the A pawn up the board. So this one's going to protect the B pawn. Okay, once that A pawn moves up. But anyway, all right, let's see how it goes. So, G3, the last move by Morphy, move 18. G3 was to make room for the bishop. Here it comes. To G2 in order to push the F pawn up, folks. All right, here comes Horvitz with his A pawn launching up the board. Morphy, not yet. He backs it up with the big guns, the rook. Rook to F1. Now he's going to get ready to push F4. Strike in the center. Here comes Horvitz's pawn. The A pawn's launching into the enemy position. It's going to explode into the castle king, right? Let's see what happens. Here comes Morphy. Shredder sees it. F4, striking in the center, right? Now, I wanted to even go into this real quick. It's funny because there's like key moments in games, folks, and this is definitely one. These next few moves could branch into many different possibilities. I mean, it's exhausting, right? Chess is exhausting, but I like some of these positions are very instructive. So if you just figure, oh well, you take there, Morphy takes back, he would have had two. This is hypothetical. This didn't happen. You have two pawns over here, right? Controlling many key squares. Okay, you got G5, F5, right? E5, D5, and you're ready to maybe fork the bishop. Look, you go here, right? There you go. Look at this. Key theme now in many of these lines. You push the pawn up. You're forking, pawn fork, right? Attacking the bishop and the knight. Plus, when this pawn moves up, she's unleashing the bishop on G2, threatening to win the exchange down here. See that, folks? So it's like a double threat, really. Okay? Now, if you push up, this may seem scary, right? You're busting through. Now, you don't actually take. Important theme here. Because now you're letting the rooks are getting ready to come down. You see the bishops over here, right? I mean, it could get very dangerous. And Shredder actually likes this, but the point being is, White has a better move to not even worry about all that. You just move over and you use this. The enemy pawn actually becomes like a shield in a sense. Okay, now we still have our bishop attacking this guy, right? So, okay, Shredder likes to move him. But now, look, we win a piece, I guess, right? He likes taking the bishop. If he takes with the queen, yeah, we're going to attack the rook to win the exchange because we're unleashing our rook over here on the queen, the enemy queen, right? The enemy queen's attacked. So it's like a double whammy. If he moves there, well, we win the exchange. Okay? I think White's doing fine. Up +8. And it doesn't look like there's much of an attack. Okay? I mean, matter of fact, if any of these knights, they can't even leap up, folks. You got the bishops. Look how they control the center squares. It's White's move. I don't know. Shredder's saying this. He's gonna pin the knight on F6 is gonna be pinned shortly. If this guy moves, look at this. He can't even. Where does he even go? Look at the dark square bishop for White. Look, it takes away all these squares for the knight, right? Knight can't go anywhere. I mean, if he moves back, you take here. Now the F6 knight is pinned by the rook on F1, right? You're going to add pressure to that guy. I mean, heck, this is a lost cause. Forget it. Look, if this is your best move, right? Look, knight's pinned. What's going to happen? Look, he gives up his queen. Look at this. I mean, forget it, folks. It's over when this is your best move, right? Come on. Let's go back. Mate and 7. Come on. We got that one under control. So, you know, so this is too early. He pushes F4. Black does not want to take. Okay, you take with the pawn, and you see what could happen, right? Those two pawns side by side are going to launch into attacking those minor pieces for Black, and it's going to rip open. Okay, he likes to take. If he takes, you take back, right? He goes here. This is going to look similar to something we're going to look at next, okay? Let's just leave it at that. He takes here. The king actually wants to take this time. All right, we take. Okay, we move over. All right, I think we're better, right? White's better here. Okay, there's a nice discovery set up. And there you go. We'll just leave it at that. But White's fine. Let's see. White won a piece, right, folks? He won a piece. He's doing fine. White would if Black tries anything against the White king side. I mean, if White wants to try to just swap queens, you know, reduce down when you're up the piece. Okay? And it actually looks with him with the two bishops, it looks like he's the one in control. Just got to go a little further. Look at this. Okay, we take that one. All right. Okay. Need I say more? Let's go. Let's go back. Okay, so he's not going to take. He's not going to take. He pushes. Harvitz goes ahead and pushes A3. Okay. Now, again, you don't want to let your opponent just get the attack going. Look at this. Look at the dark square weakness now around the king, right? I mean, forget about it. You play it in the rooks. Look, the A file's opening up. The queen's gonna leap into there, right? All right. Do the smart thing. B3. Lock it up. See, you don't want those open files for those black rooks. No way. All right, B3. Morphy plays B3, slowing down Harvitz's momentum there. So now we got, look at this, king over. Now, obviously, we looked at lines where it opens up, right? So Harvitz's king is opposite that rook on F1, the enemy rook, right? So he gets off that F file. And look at this, like Shudder, Morphy pushes, he's going to rip it open one way or the other. Now he's starting to take the knight. And look, folks, if you go, I looked at many lines. What if he hops in here, right? What if he hops in here? Well, when you chop this guy off, pawn moves, right? Remember this move? Pawn fork and the bishop on G2, threatening to win the exchange. All right, if he pushes up, all right, queen takes the same. Queen takes here, threatening mate on B2, folks. You got to look at all the squares of the board. Make sure you got it all under control. C3 to block that enemy queen coming in with mate on B2. All right, he wants to try some tricks. And, oh, look, he comes right in, right? Come on, folks, you got to dummy up. You got to dummy up. All right, so what do we do? Look at this. Hit the queen. All right, trade him off. After black recaptures, we win the exchange finally over here. It's been waiting, right? There we go. Trade down now. Look at this. Trade down. And there you go. Black's busted. He's busted. There's nothing he can do. All right, he comes over here. Big deal. Here, let's trade. All right, there you go. We're up easy, right? We're up easy here. Look at this. We'll trade down. Why not? Just trade him down. Look, folks. Look. Why make it complicated? Look. Here we go, right? We come up. If he goes after our pawns, no big deal. We can eat him up, no big deal. We're going to go, look, if he, which way does he want to go? Let me see here. Oh, he's going to try to stop me, right? Because he can't stop, if he goes, I can't even get it out. I eat this one and look at my B pawn, folks, see? He can't stop, he can't eat my king side pawns over there on G3 and H2. There's no time. My B pawn launches down. Forget about it. And if he tries to block, I mean, he's got nothing. Come on, he's got nothing. Look at the evaluation, folks. Right? This guy's going to launch down there. You got plus 13, right? There's nothing he can do. It's all over. So, I mean, you know, simplify, folks. You simplify. So there you go, right? He can't do that. I mean, at this point, that's nothing. No big deal, right? We looked at it. Okay, he tries to, what's that going to do? All right, instead of pushing the pawn, right, he tries the bishop maybe. He tries the bishop. All right, he goes there. We get the exchange, right? We get the exchange. We come up. What's he going to do? He's going after our queen. All right. We got to protect that C3. He takes there. All right, the knight will protect C3 with the king, and now we'll change. That's good. Swap them down. Take with the king. Oh, all right, we'll take with the king. Who cares? Right, we got it. We got it, folks. Here we go. Right, trade them off. All right. Game over, right? +4 for now. We're up the exchange, right? And we're up a pawn. There you go. So he can't do that yet. He can't do this stuff yet. We're pushing there. He can't come up. You know, he can't launch the knight up there. I also looked at lines like this where he comes over here, right? Now we could even push. We could push. We could open it up. Right, we open it up, we pin the knight, 2 on that guy. He goes back, right? Goes back to help defend that knight. We threaten to chop it off and then win the knight on f6, right? We're threatening, just for example, we're threatening to take him, and then he can't move, or we take the queen with our bishop, so if he goes there, then he loses this one, right? So he gets out of the pin. We take him anyway. He takes back because it's not pinned to the queen anymore. Here we go. Look at this. Comes up. All right. We're doing it quick, folks, just to get a feel, you know. There could be better moves. I know that. I'm aware. Could be better moves, but hey. So anyway, I mean, at this point, you're still up, right? Look, you're threatening to take here. Or are you? Wait, no, you're not. You go here. Threatening to come down this way. Oh, look at that. You just sacked the piece. Look at this. If he takes, knight up, and you're threatening mate in 2. Queen check, right? King goes to g7. All right, let's just do it. King check, check the king. He goes there. There it is, mate, right? Because your rook on f1 is like a wall. He's mated against the f-file, right? So on this, he can't even take it. I love it. See? The tactics are already working for us. Knight comes up. Aggressive post. We got the king side attack going, folks. Alright, so you get the feel of this, right? Because we swap. Knight's going to take. Here we go. Let's see where we're going now with this. We're not threatening. What are we threatening? To destroy the defender of h7, see? If he takes this way, it's mate. Alright? So we'd have to take him. We could get our other rook into the game, but Shredder likes this. Up. He's only got... he's got no moves. My rook on d1 stops the king. And there it is. It's mate. Similar to before. Same pattern, folks. See that? Similar pattern, I should say. It's just that the rook's on the D file. We had the rook on the F file before, right? So there you go. Look. So king over. He tries to stop. You go right in like this. He's got to give it up, right? Mate. Queen to well, once he chases this guy off, he takes out the knight again. Right? Where does he go? What does he even do? Look, take him out, and it's a repeat. There it is, right? So, rook down. He's got to take. Already gets 2 for it. He gets 2 for the piece. But we still got another rook. The queen's still on the attack, right? Look at this. Check. He goes over. Alright, folks. Do we have to go any further? Okay, look at this. +6, right? You got him tied up. You got the queen. Alright, so you're winning that. Okay, so... Again, yeah, I didn't let it run. I understand. I'm just getting a feel. Maybe a question. Look, Shredder says to bring the knight back, right? And that's exactly what Harvard does. So let's get back into the game, right? The knight goes back. Morphy, like Shredder, he sees the same thing. Look at this. G4, the pawns are rolling up the board to attack the king, right? It's funny how Harvard's pawn reached the white king side first, but it's it's Morphy with all the play, right? All the attack in this one. So we got move 24. We got, okay, the queen goes back. She's going to try to come up here and threaten mate. That's the idea, you know. Come back, come to c6, boom, boom. But it's a few moves away. Few moves away. Here comes the bishop now. Bishop to f3, okay? Bishop to f3, and here comes the queen. Wants to come down on c3, so we got to watch. Now the reason why the bishop went here is to protect g4 for now, because Morphy's going to move his queen, reposition and get it up on the dark squares around the black king. So he moves the bishop to protect the g-pawn so he can move his queen. And then, like we saw, Horvitz moves the queen to c6, ready to come down on c3, folks. What happens? Knight to b1, protecting c3 with the knight. Okay, Horvitz moves the pawn up. Not much there. But here comes Morphy with the queen to f2. The knight tries to get back into the game now. And here we got g5, booting the knight on f6 down to g8. And now we got the check. The pawns are rolling, folks. They're rolling up the board. Now, if he goes here, you'll see. Well, this looks good, right? You can move the bishop. Look at that post, folks. Look at this post. Unbelievable, right? Move the bishop back. All right, we know the knight's going to try to chop that guy off, right? So if we go here, he's definitely going to chop him off. So, okay. So the king's coming up, ready to take on h7. He pushes, take on passant, right? So you're just ripping it open some more. What's he challenging our dark square bishop? We take there, he takes, what do we just push? Right? We push up, hey. What's going on here? He checks. He blocks. Threatening the queen. Look at this. I guess he doesn't have many options, right? He takes here. Take. His microchips are blown, folks. I think it's over. It's all over, right? It's all over. I mean, let's call it there, right? At this point. So here's some threats. If he goes if he goes here, it's a nice move. If the white queen comes here, you would think maybe he could move back to defend it, right? Because otherwise, there's no one else that can defend h7 right now. There's no way to defend it, right? The only piece that can is the knight going back. But look, now the bishop goes here, and he's going to come to c4. What an outpost, folks. What an outpost for the bishop, right? I mean, forget it. I mean, I don't see why not throw it in. Look at it. You wouldn't even want it. Let me see if I got that right. Is that what he said to do? Put the bishop here. It's almost like he wants you to trade. But okay, he's saying to sack the piece. And what does that really do? Look at this. You get a check in anyway. And now you can take with check, right? But I guess this is better. Shredder likes that. All right, and then you could sack the exchange next, and then take on h7 with your queen. All right, maybe that wouldn't be enough though. So anyway, look at this. Look at this. Wow. So you really chew him up. I mean, black's in a bad position now. Whose attack cracked through, folks? Whose attack cracked through first? So anyway, he can't go to f7, right? He's saying to sack. He's saying just to sack it. And that's fine for us, right? Fine by us. Look, if he goes here, I think it's even worse. Now the knight, there's nothing stopping queen takes h7, nothing, right? So he'd have to sack. I mean, even now, what's he gonna do now? We're doing it fast, but there you go. You get a feel, right, folks? You get a feel of what's going on. White's got to watch these dark squares. Sack the exchange. There you go. You get your look at the power of that bishop, huh? Look at the power of that bishop. See now, he's going to have to sack the queen for it, because if he goes here, we move and we take next, right? Or we take the knight or push up, I think, right? What do? I mean, we get that king to block the rook's influence, right? Try to get him to go back on the first rank so we could queen the pawn, right? We check him if he goes back, you know. We could mate him, I guess, right? We can mate him. Look at this. There you go, right? Queen blocks. There you go. Mate. All right, but he wants to come up, right? He wants to come up. Let's make sure we got this. Pawn check. He comes up. Queen check. He goes here. All right, we win the knight. He's going to have to take back. We win the queen. We win the queen. Let's see. We're going to win. Look. We could have even just won the exchange. Look, we win the exchange. If he goes here, then you win the rook. You pick them all up, folks. Forget about it, right? All right, so there you go. Tactics all over the place, all benefiting white. So he's definitely got the better position. So there you go, right? He goes back, he checks. The king, Harvitz moves the king in the corner. We were looking at what if, right? The what ifs of this and the what ifs of that. All right, so he goes in the corner. He knows to go in the corner. Right, I'll move 29, king to h8, and here you go. Pawn up again, hitting the knight, right? Now this knight comes up, and they give a little footnote. If knight to e7, then basically you go to chop that guy off. You're getting the bishop out of the way of the queen, and the queen now threatens queen to f6 mate after you take out the defender of f6. See? For instance, you move here, you take out the knight first, and then you can get the queen to f6, which is mate. See? That's the threat, right? This move has a dangerous threat. So there's really, and it says, here's how the old masters wrote it. If king to e7, bishop to g4, and all is over. All right? So he can't even get that knight. He can't even save it. Right? It's the only square he could save it, and it ends the game anyway. So he does like Shredder. He throws the other knight, to c5, right, with threats of craziness, sacking here. This guy is pinned on c2. The pawn can't take. If you take there, then he gets this guy going up, and he's going to queen on a1, or take the knight, right? The only way to protect a1 is this. You're going to lose the bishop, I guess. All right, but we got better, folks. We don't want this coming in, right? We don't want him coming in. So there's no h3. I'm just showing you the threat. So he takes with check first. Might as well win the piece, and you queen the pawn. All right, the king ended up taking. And now, before that knight could go anywhere, because it's a check move, don't forget, folks. It turns into a queen, it's check. All right, black takes back. And now we destroy that knight before it could do any damage. This is what Morphy does, right? Bishop takes back, and here we go. We got to move our queen. All right, and all's well. You know, this is Morphy now. He's up, and get a load of this. Now you got Harvard's trying to hang in there. Here's what he does, right? He goes queen to e6. Becomes the knight. King in the corner, because if Morphy wants, see, if he goes here right now, you figure, oh, look, they're on the same diagonal, right? I'm up already. I'm up a knight. So let's trade the queens off. Let's get them off, right? He goes there. Okay, you'd have to block. Where else can you block, right? You don't want to give up the exchange. You don't have to. So on this, you have to take back with a pawn. And look at your pawns; they're busted up. It's ugly, right? Still playable. You're still up, but you know, why make it ugly, right? So what he does is he doesn't offer or force the queens off until he gets the knight up here first, covering c4. You got it? Now the king tries to get out of the pin, because now when Morphy would move his he'd move his queen here, it would force the trade, right? For instance, he does a dumb move, I don't know. If he goes anywhere, even if this move, Shredder found it a second ago, you go here, you're going to force them off. Doesn't matter. You take them off. Oh, look, you can even, here he goes, maybe he wants to do it this way. Look at that, you take with the bishop. Now, look at that guy. The bishop, he's shining, right? So there you go. You see how you work these things? You get the queens off the board to make it easy. You're up the piece, right? Okay, so the knight comes up. That could be the idea. Harvard's moves the king in the corner. He doesn't want to trade the queens. He's down. He's down and out. He's got to hope for something. Maybe somehow use that queen to get a lucky checkmate or a perpetual check, right? Well, after that, Morphy attacks the queen from the other angle here. King goes back. Knight comes up, defending g4. The black queen on e7's attacking it. The rook comes here, right? Pawn up to protect g5. He's going to double, folks. He's going to double. Double those rooks? No, denied. Rook takes. All right, he takes back with the pawn. Here it is. Queen over here. Look, he doesn't. Let's see. Yeah, there's no busting up of the white pawns, because the black queen's on e7 now. Here comes the rook to the only open file. All right, let's trade queens, Morphy says. Oh boy, he throws in a check first. King goes over. King goes to d1. All right, she's trying to come in, folks. He's trying to come in, see? Okay. Knight to d2. If you haven't noticed, that unleashes the white rook. You see, folks? The white, say he comes down here trying to threaten mate. Well, it's all over now, see? Goodbye. Right, you could go here, right? That's mate too. Shredder likes this. Either way, mate. Okay? So the knight's unleashing the rook. Alright, if he takes, remember, the knight covers. And if he tries to come over here and threaten mate, right? Then he gets beaten to the punch, right? King over and bishop e6. That's a mate right there. Nice pattern, right? One move quicker, right? So, what is, after the knight moves, what does Harvard do? He ends up bringing the bishop to f4, blocking it up so they don't trade rooks. Alright, here comes the knight. Nice outpost. Queen comes up, gonna try to get in here some way. Over there he's trying to get in, maybe get the perpetual check somehow. All right, here we go. Now, you might be wondering, well, I could win this pawn, right, and go into the end game, but no, because after this, your knight ends up on the open file, and you lose it. It gets pinned. Look at this. It gets pinned to the king. Can't do that, folks. You don't want to go into that, right? It would be nice if you can fork on F7, but you can't move that knight. It's pinned, right? Okay, so you can't win the D6 pawn. Morphy sees it. He goes in. He's willing to trade. Let's trade. I'll queen for queen. Come on. And at this point, Harvard says, okay. He says, fine. He takes. Pawn takes. Okay. And now we got rook defending D6. Defending D6. The rook comes up like Shredder finds. All right, king up. It's just a matter of time, folks. Here we go. Look, I guess it's what the rook move was about. If he takes, then he could recapture along the third rank, right? But Harvitz doesn't bite. Instead, he moves his rook over here now to protect the B pawn, right? Now, all right, he takes here, and the rook comes down. Now, can he take this, folks? Can he take that? Let's see what happens. If he checks, right? I guess we're still up. But he's going to lose the D pawn now, right? He's going to lose that one. So, all right, this better. Look. After the pawn takes, rook takes, okay? He brings the king up. Now, let's see. King up. You got Harvitz with king to F8. Do I have this right? Yep. King coming up, attacking the rook. Okay? Rook attacking D5. Right? Now, the bishop slides in to protect D5. Now, Shredder likes this. I mean, you know. You don't have to go pawn for pawn. You don't have to yet, folks. You got him on the ropes, right? You could defend your D5 pawn. All right. So now he could bring up the king, I guess. But Harvitz decides to play. He decides to play rook to C5, pinning the knight, so he can't take on D6. All right, but that allows this. The rook goes back, right? And then you get the pawn moving up some more, right? And then the king, let's see, the king's coming up. Because that pawn just keeps running. Look at this, folks. Because if you notice, look, if he goes here to try to attack the pawn, now you take, right? And you defend the pawn. What's he going to do, right? And the bishop can easily slip in and defend the white pawn. You want the knight's defending it, right? What could he do? He can't even attack the knight because the bishop, I mean, he's running out of room, folks, right? So what does he do? On, with knight, let's see, pawn. The bishop goes back. Pawn goes up. He's making a run. Here comes the king. The king comes up, right? Pawn attacks again. The rook goes over. Let's see, the bishop attacks the rook. Rook's got to go back. It's the only piece that could blockade right now. And look at this. Morphy trapping the rook. It's totally trapped, right? Can't go anywhere now. All right. So you got the king coming here. You figure you sack the rook, you win the bishop, and then for instance, you just do a dumb move like this, right? You could just sack, you take your queen, but he wins it back, right? And then you're gonna lose this anyway. But his position is so bad right now that after this, I mean, yeah, the knight just takes, right? And now he defends. He defends it. If he takes here now, well, you just queen, and the knight's protecting it, right? He's totally busted, right? So what happens? He goes, where does he go? He goes up, attacks the knight now, right? He attacks the knight. And you got the knight swinging over to, over here now, right? Then you got, it's a lost cause. He goes over here, believe it or not. He just pushes. He pushes there. You got the queen, the queen pawn moving up, giving check. And it's all over, folks. That's it. Harvard's had it enough finally. He couldn't take anymore. I mean, it was all over. This move, I guess, right? I thought he's just throwing the pawn away, but if you take, he takes back with the bishop. All right, to be thorough, right? So he's just, he's just buying time. I mean, however you want to do. You want to trade in now. This guy comes in, right? I mean, but why even let the bishop try to get back in the game in any sort of way? He just goes there. Look at this, right? And that's it. Harvard's had enough. Now it ends right here. We'll show Shredder. We'll show Shredder here. Let's see how it ends, right? You can just do something like this, right? And all we got to do is maneuver, I guess. If we go like this, he takes here, right? Where's Shredder? Where's Shredder right now? Matter of fact, yeah, look at that. He goes over here, right? What else does he want to do? If he goes here, we could threaten the queen, the pawn. He'd have to stop it, right? He'd have to stop it like this. Oh, there you go. We could go here. He's got to do that, right? He's got to. But we could even sack, and he takes, and then we go, now we got another one over here, right? This guy's never going to make it because we'll catch him, right? Look, we catch him. He doesn't know what to do. We got a pawn over here about to go in on D8. We got one going in on H8. Come on, folks. There's nothing left, right? Folks, there's nothing left. And I mean that in this game and the whole match. There's nothing left of the match. It's all over. Harvard's resigned. He called it quits. And I'll read you the notes right from the book here. It says, it began in September of 1858, and after continuing somewhat irregularly on account of the alleged indisposition of Harvard's, was ended by his retirement in October, when the score stood Morphy 5, Harvard's 2, with one draw. It is noteworthy that Steinitz discovers a marked improvement in Morphy's play as compared with his play against Lowenthal. So he did. Once he got back on track, remember, Harvard's won the first two games, and he also had won a offhand game. They played one offhand game, and Harvard's won that. So Harvard's had beaten Morphy 3 times in a row. I know I mentioned this before, but I'm just adding it to paint the picture. Then Morphy started to turn it around, and Harvard's couldn't handle this guy, right? He can't do anything. He was beating him, right? Now Morphy turned the tables, and that's it. Harvard's lost his gusto. He didn't want to play anymore. And they even have some funny lines in the story of Morphy here in the beginning, in the bio. And they talked about it, what was the name of the club there? Let's see. Harvard's was the king of the Café del the Café del Regents. Whatever. He was the king, right? He beat Morphy up in the first 3 times they met, and Morphy now turned the tables. And now Harvard's couldn't be found. He couldn't be found. Oh, I got sick. Oh, I don't feel good. I'm going to need a few days to recoup. All right, Harvard's, go ahead when you're ready, And then Morphy would go to the club, the Café del Regents, and there he would be. Oh, hey, Harvard's, I'm glad to see you feeling better there. Hopefully we'll play tomorrow, you think? I mean, come on, with the shenanigans, right, folks? The guy didn't want to play him anymore. And then in the end of this game, he was busted for the last, 30 moves, 20 moves, whatever it was. And he's throwing the pieces around. Just resign already, So they pretty much summed it up that he was a sore sport. And what are you going to do, right? I guess it happened back then, too. We got plenty of that today, and had it back then, too. All right, so anyway, that leaves it with the Harvard's match. That concludes this chapter, anyway, of our journey. And let me tell you what's coming up next, folks. We got the great Adolf Anderson who became, pretty much when Morphy left the scene, he became considered the unofficial world champion. He won the great tournament of 1851 before Morphy entered the scene. So he was a big contender here. He was a heavyweight, you know. All the attacks and the beautiful combinations that Anderson left behind. We're going to finally get to this match. Now, in the book, too, just to give you a little interest, the Masters, I'll tell you, this is going to be worth the price of admission, because the old Masters, I guess, really considered this the most important match that Morphy played against any opponent. Anderson was, you know, he was another heavyweight, and they got plenty of commentary between the moves, so you're going to enjoy that. So we'll really take our time with these games. We'll go through the Morphy-Anderson match next. That's going to be section 5, so please stay tuned, and we'll see you there.